It's 650 miles as fast as you can do it.
Full throttle, never let off.
It's basically a race. It's a race around Lake Erie for small bikes. That's what it is.
This will probably be one of the longest single days I've ever had on a motorcycle.
I mean, it is a beautiful ride.
I made this event for small motorcycles because of my racing background. I wanted a race around the lake. I limited it to 200 cc's because I didn't want someone with their 1,000 cc sport bike wadding up their bike at 180 miles an hour on the QEW over in Canada. People, if you mention the word race, they're going to want to race. I mean, the speed limit up in Michigan was 70, and many of the bikes competing today can't hit 70. So yeah, we're racing, but we're not exceeding the speed limit by too much.
Yeah, I mean, it's really simple. You just get on your bike, go around Lake Erie, come back. You're done. Easy.
My name is Ken Carlson. I'm known as Crazy Ken because I participate in this event every year. This will be my third attempt.
You gotta be nuts to do it.
My wife thinks I'm thoroughly crazy.
The whole idea is crazy.
You can pretty much tell in the first five seconds of talking to somebody whether they're going to be a candidate for this. Some people, I mean, you tell them it's a 650 miles in one day, and they're like, wow, that's cool. Man, I wish I could do that. Most of the people are like, 650 miles in one day on a little tiny bike? Are you nuts?
Bill came to me about the Lake Erie Loop a couple of years ago, saying he had a great idea, and Bill's a long-distance rider, and I've done quite a bit of long-distance riding myself.
I have a collection of old bikes, and I've been riding for a long time, and I met Bill as a friend because I bought parts from him many years ago.
I'm a member of the Vintage Japanese Motorcycle Club, and Bill had put a notice on the club website about this event. And so I looked into it.
And then I joined the Yahoo group.
And Bill talked to me about putting this ride together around the lake, and I just thought it was great.
And having bought parts from him, he told me about the race and said, would you like to be a part of it? And I said, sure. Let's get it on.
I think the second I saw it, I knew it was something I wanted to do.
It's an exciting thing that he's doing, and I know it's for a good cause.
The charity that we do this for is the Aluminum Cans for Burned Children Foundation.
We're trying to raise money to help children who have severe burns. Part of the reason it's such a long endurance ride is also to remind people of what, you know, a long recovery, a burn is.
We supply them with any medical supplies that might not be covered under their insurance, or a lot of the kids don't even have insurance.
You're talking about children who have maybe been burnt on, you know, 70% of their body, and these are kids that really need help.
Another thing is we have a scholarship fund for the kids. In case any of them want to go on a higher education, there will be some money available for them. We have an education program, a Learn Not to Burn program. And part of that program is a large van and a trailer that's like a little two-story house for little kids. We have two burn camps, a winter and a summer camp. We've been involved in the winter camps. We take them to Brandywine ski area, and they go tubing and sledding, and they just have a ball. And then they camp out in the cabins overnight, and we have food for them all day, and it's just a joy to be with these kids.
And so ultimately, you know, motorcycling and endurance run aside, it's really about the kids, and we really want to try to do what we can to help them out.
So 4 years ago, we started raising money through a Four Corners ride around the United States. We had quite a bit of problems with the first run. My father was very, very ill at the time that we started it, and 4 or 5 days into the ride, he passed away. So we had to come back to Cleveland. We had the funeral services for him, and then maybe 5 or 6 days later resumed the ride, and nothing really went right after his death. We did finish the ride. We did about 13,000 miles, went through 3 motorcycles, but we finished it, and we raised some money for the Aluminum Cans for Burned Children Fund. The next year we wanted to do something else, but I was not going to ride around the United States on a little 106cc motorcycle once again.
I wasn't going.
And she wasn't going to follow me in the motorhome. So we decided to do something else, and we came up with this. The first year we had 9 competitors.
The first year was held earlier in the year, earlier in May.
And at 6 o'clock in the morning, we were sitting there, it was 40-some degrees, and every bike was about that deep in rainwater.
They started off on a morning at about 50 degrees, rainy, cold, and they hit it.
First year we had horrible rain and it was so cold, and hypothermia was a real problem.
We all left, and it was cold and it was miserable.
Some of these guys actually stopped at Walmart and left their wet boots and socks and bought clean boots and dry socks and continued to race.
It was terrible. It was just absolutely ridiculous.
Doug Harwood, who won the event the first year, he lives in Buffalo. He stopped in Buffalo and changed clothes.
The early pioneers of the Lake Erie Loop definitely earned their wings on that ride that day.
There's a whole lot that really goes into this behind the scenes that nobody sees. And, you know, when we got back, I'm thinking, man, 9 people, we're not doing this again. I'm done with this, and, you know, we'll figure out another way to raise money. But then at the pancake breakfast on Sunday morning, these guys who went through hell with me on the ride were saying, well, yeah, you know, you beat me this year, but next year I'm going to build this bike, and I'm going to build that bike. And they were so enthused, and I thought, yeah, we'll try a Lake Erie Loop too and see what happens. And we had a few more people, and we created a touring category, because that way the large bikes could also take part in it, but they wouldn't be competing. They were just along for the ride, as it were.
These guys that did the tourist class on the big motorcycles, that is fantastic. These are guys that aren't competing. They just want to go for the ride. They want to support the event.
Well, now in the smaller bikes, the ones actually in the competition, there's 3 classes. There's class 1, that's 50cc, vintage up to 110. And any bike older than 30 years old is considered vintage. In class 2, it's 125cc, and if it's vintage, it's 160. In class 3, it's 200cc, vintage up to 225.
What do you get if you win? Well, first of all, you'll get mounds of fame and glory will be heaped on you. You'll probably get television interviews, might hit Letterman. You'll definitely be in all the local newspapers and radio stations. You're assured instant fame and glory. On top of that, there is some prize money for first, second, and third place in each class. That's 50-50. Each rider pays a $50 entry fee. Half of that money goes directly to the benefit. The other half actually pays out the first, second, and third place. That said, there's sort of been a tradition where riders have actually stepped up and donated their purse back to the benefit as well. So there's no real specific route set out. Each rider is allowed to pretty much plot their own course.
This year I'm going to go counterclockwise.